What's up, guys? Chris here from East Coast PC, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about Intel's upcoming 14th generation core processors and the full lineup, really. The 14900K, we're going to be building a new build out of that for our editing and gaming rig, our main rig we use here at the office. The 14700K, that's going to be the most interesting product for the general public for multiple reasons. It's getting a spec bump as well as the clock speed bumps all the rest of the processors are getting, but also because it's just such a major upgrade from the original 12700K, and people can extend the life of their Z690 motherboards for a whole nother year if they want to go with this option. Now, we're also going to be talking about the motherboards that Gigabyte has released just for the 14th generation processors. Now, they will work with 12th, 13th, and 14th generation processors. They come with the latest ports, features, all that. One of the main highlight features is Wi-Fi 7 of these motherboards, and they're actually already on the market. So we're going to be talking about all that today. We're currently using a 5800X in our 5800X 3D in our main editing and gaming rig, and it has served us well, and it's actually worked better than it ever has. It's gotten rid of all the buggy issues I had earlier with Windows 10. Windows 11 has finally fixed all those things. But we're going to be talking about why we're making the switch back to Intel. Both platforms are great, and we're just going to kind of elaborate on that a little bit today, talking about what are some good options, motherboard CPU combos, if y'all are in the market for these CPUs. Before we get started, if there's anyone who is not subscribed to the channel, please hit that subscribe button, drop a like, comment, do all that good YouTube stuff. We appreciate each and every one of y'all so much. So with that out of the way, let's get started. Okay, guys, so what I got on this first page here is actually a leaked Intel benchmark slide that they will probably be using on their presentation. They'll probably give it to reviewers or whatever kind of little event launch event they do for these 14th generation of processors. Now, they have this, they are testing it at 1080p high. They are putting their 14900K up against a Ryzen 9 7950X 3D, and they are claiming a 2% victory. Now, at this point, it's basically pulling straws. Both of these platforms are great. They're great at gaming. And the biggest thing is, guys, I'm very turned off from the 7950X 3D. So if any of you were watching the channel about a year and a half ago, I was extremely excited for the Ryzen 7000 3D processors. And what I was mainly excited for is I originally had a 16-core 5950X in my build that I later switched to a 5800X 3D because the 1% lows when gaming on those 3D processors such as the Ryzen 5000 series without the 3D V-cache, the 1% lows really aggravated me. They dropped really low sometimes, and that really bothers me personally, and it kind of ruined the high-end gaming experience for me. So I was very glad to switch to that 3D processor. So as we all thought that the 7950X 3D was going to have 3D V-cache on both dies, but it did not. And I was, like I said, I was originally planning on using that in my build. I was looking forward to it. And when we found out it only had 3D V-cache on one die, it was a very weird thing. And what's so aggravating about that processor is that if you want it to work right, you have to have Xbox Game Bar installed. They do not have a hardware scheduler on the die, such as Intel. They also use Windows to schedule things, but they also have something called Intel Thread Director that works with Windows to help, scheduling with their 8 performance cores and 16 efficiency cores on the i9 SKUs. And Ryzen does not have that, and it kind of creates some problems. And it just, I don't like the way the whole setup is implemented. And now some of you might say, well, why not get a 7800X 3D? That's a great processor if you just want to play games. It's still hard for me to recommend AMD over Intel right now. And the main reason why is, guys, like with this 14700K coming out, it is going to have 12 efficiency cores to go along with 8 performance cores and 16 threads. So you're going to get a total of 8 performance cores with 16 threads, and then you're going to get 12 efficiency cores that's not hyper-threaded to go along with that. Now, what you're going to get is a gaming experience that is going to be about neck and neck with the 7800X 3Ds, and you're going to get multi-threaded performance that AMD couldn't begin to match with just them 8 standard cores, big cores, whatever you want to call them. So while both platforms are great, I'm actually looking forward to this 14th generation of processors. A lot of people will tell you, and guys, please don't ever get caught up in the comments, all the Intel and AMD fanboy crap. One person in the comment is saying Intel is still stuck on 10 nanometer. Ha 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 ha. Well, the truth is both platforms are great. They're both competing neck and neck in so many areas. Some, one thing Intel is better at, the other AMD is better at, but either way you go, you're going to have a great platform. And the truth is, it doesn't really matter if Intel is still on 10 nanometer because they're doing what on 10 nanometer, what is taking AMD on 5 nanometer to do. Now, one thing I will say is they do not have the power efficiency. Intel is never going to be as power efficiency as AMD is right now because AMD is on TSMC's 5 nanometer node. Intel is on their most advanced 10 nanometer SuperFin node that they can build. Now they're calling it Intel 7, and it is as dense as, actually just a slight bit denser than TSMC's 7 nanometer node. It's actually a little bit better than TSMC's 7 nanometer node as far as performance goes and how many transistors you can pack in there. It just doesn't have the power efficiency of a 7 nanometer node. With that being said, guys, I am excited about the 14th generation. We're going to be using the 14900K in our upcoming build, and one thing that I think that's going to set this generation apart a little bit and make it actually a worthy upgrade, especially for people on 12th generation, is if you go back and look at like the 13900KS, it got terrible reviews, and rightfully so. It had a 6 gigahertz turbo boost clock, but the problem is it could never hold that 6 gigahertz clock. It would get there and then drop right back down, and reviews either got 0 or up to like 1.5% performance difference for like in between $150 and $225 more, depending on where you bought the CPU at. So that was definitely a big problem, and I cannot confirm this. I probably won't be able to confirm this until October 16th, but these CPUs supposedly use something called DLVR, and that is a voltage regulation chip directly on the CPU that works with your VRMs on your motherboard. And what that does is it just helps you regulate, it helps your system regulate the power more efficiently. And what that can do, basically, where the 13900KS had to use 150 watt TDP and had a 6 gigahertz boost clock that it couldn't even hit, the 14900K will have a 6 gigahertz clock at 125 watt base TDP, 253 watts of PL2 power when it's under the boost state. And it will definitely be able to hold that 6 gigahertz a lot better if it does use DLVR. I'm pretty sure it does, and that's how they got a lot of these gains. We have actually already seen leaked benchmarks of the 14700K, which I think is going to steal this generation. I think that's going to probably be the best seller out of the whole stack, the 14700K. We've already seen leaked benchmarks of it overclocking over 5.9 gigahertz, which is right at where a 14900K is going to be performing out of the box. And I think for most people that will be the way to go, is that 14700K if you plan on investing in a new updated Z790 motherboard, or if you already have a Z690 or Z790 motherboard and you're just trying to extend the life of your platform. So guys, most of the specifications for the CPUs as far as core counts are the same, except for the 14700K. That's the only ones that are actually gaining core counts. We're going to switch over here, guys, to another chart here, and I'm going to show you guys everything else is just about the same as far as core counts. Well, it is the same except for the 14700K. The biggest difference is we're getting clock speed bumps. We will probably be able to hold them clock speeds better, and yeah, so updated motherboards, extended life of your platform a little bit more. So we basically got to talk about these CPUs out of the way. Now, what I'll do real quick before we end this video, guys, is show you some of Gigabyte's updated motherboards, some of the cool features that they have for these Z790 motherboards, and the motherboard that we will be using in our upcoming build. Okay guys, so before we get to the motherboard we're actually going to be using in our new build, which is also a Gigabyte board. And by the way, Gigabyte is the only one that has their boards for sale right now. The other manufacturers will be launching their motherboards on October the 17th along with the 14th generation CPUs. I know Gigabyte's had their boards ready for a long time. They were very excited about this. They also QVL'd up to 8,266 mega transfers memory on their motherboards, which is insane. Now, whether you can actually get that stable on a 4DIMM motherboard, that's another question, but they have a crap ton of sticks QVL'd at the 8,266 mega transfers. It's not just like one or two kits, so it's actually really impressive. I still think you'll have to have a really good chip to hit that number, but nevertheless, doing all this on a 4DIMM motherboard is very impressive. So we'll talk about this motherboard. It is a white motherboard, the Gigabyte Z790 Aorus Pro X. Of course, it does have Wi-Fi 7, and guys, I don't think hardly nobody's going to go out and buy a Wi-Fi 7 router. We're certainly not going to buy one right now. You don't need it. It's just one of the highlight features of these new motherboards, and that's why I was talking about it. But anyway, this is a beautiful white motherboard. Anybody that was trying to go with an all-white build, a Lee & Lee 011 Dynamic Evo or Evo XL or any of the white Corsair cases or anything, it's actually almost like a silverish, it's like a white and light silverish gray. It's a really beautiful color. It's kind of about the color of the Z790 Apex board, and it does look really, really good. I'm not going with a white build, and I want some more USB ports and beefed up features. That's why I'm not using it. But one cool thing this does have that I think will appeal to a lot of people, as a lot of you may know, sensors panels have been gaining traction. A lot of people are trying to put sensor panels in their PC now. Basically, they're little 5 and 7 inch screen, well, yeah, mostly like 4 and 5 inch screens that you would use for like a Raspberry Pi or something, and programming them to show you your CPU and GPU temperature and all your stats of your computer. Well, normally the way you do that, you go out of your GPU and back into that little display, and that can make things a little complex depending on what graphics card and case you're using and all that good stuff. Well, this motherboard right here, this is a Type-C, right where my mouse is going around. That is a USB Type-C display port out that's connected directly to the iGPU. You will have to have one of the Intel processors without the F on the end of it. It will have to be like one of the K series products that does have the iGPU active in it. But if you do have one of them processors, you can actually use your iGPU to display all your CPU stats from this little USB-C display out port without even bothering your graphics card. And that is one of the very cool highlight features that I wanted to show on this motherboard. I'm not going to waste a whole lot of time going through the specs, guys. Just updated ports, 5 gig LAN, all that good stuff on this. Great VRMs. But before we go, guys, I will show you my favorite motherboard, what we will be using in our new build, and that is the Z790 Aorus Master X. Beautiful silver and black motherboard. That's the theme we're going to be going with for our new build. And got a postcode, tons of USB ports, guys. And obviously we got 10 gig LAN, we got two 20 gig USB-C ports, a 5 gig USB-C ports, just basically everything you could ever need. Now, the only complaint I got about these Gigabyte boards is basically the only place that Intel is lacking behind AMD is how many lanes they have directly from their CPU, how many PCI Express lanes they have for other stuff like a capture card and a very few motherboards that's connected directly to the CPU. But for most all other motherboards, that would go to your M.2 slots. Well, Intel does have 4 lanes other than the 16 that's for your GPU connected directly to the CPU, but they are still Gen 4 lanes. That is not going to matter for 99% of the public. Please do not go out and spend all this money on Gen 5 drives and all this just because somebody on YouTube has told you that you need it. For, like I said, for 99% of the public, it will make no difference. It will make no difference in my workload, editing my videos. Them Gen 5 drives are super cool. They are. But hardly nobody can take advantage of them. The only way they're really taking advantage of is when you're doing really long, really huge files and you're trying to write extremely fast back and forth, just gigabytes and gigabytes and sometimes terabytes. And most people just aren't doing that. Now, the only little issue I take with these Intel boards is if you see this huge heatsink right here, it says Gen 5 M.2. Well, the primary M.2 slot is right underneath of that, and that is the 4 lanes that's connected directly to your CPU that is made for a M.2 drive. Well, this Gen 5 drive, which is the 5th M.2 slot up here, you can use it, but it will take 8 lanes away from your graphics card. So basically what happens, you have a graphics card plugged in here, and if you put a Gen 5 drive or any drive in here, it's going to split your graphics card lanes in half, use 4 of them. 4 of them get wasted, obviously, because of the way PCI Express works. And I'm not going to be using that. I wish this heat sink was down here on the one that everybody should be using, but it's not. But other than that, guys, I'm really stoked about using this motherboard. Now, these new Gigabyte motherboards that have the X on the end of them, they will be drop-in ready for the 14th gen processors. They do not need a BIOS update. All of your other motherboards, they will need a BIOS update. 14th gen processors, to my knowledge, won't work without a BIOS update. Now, they possibly could, because they are identical in core count and they are still called Raptor Lake. They might work. It would be a kind of coincidental scenario that we're not used to. But I can guarantee you that all these Gigabyte motherboards are drop-in ready for the new 14th gen processors. Like I said, we're going to be going with this. I'm extremely excited about this motherboard and this whole build entirely, guys. I haven't built myself an updated water-cooled build in about 2 years now. We've got us a EK Quantum water block for our Gigabyte RTX 4090, and we're also going to be buying a Quantum Reflection 2 water block for our 14900K. So, guys, I'm not going to talk y'all's head off anymore. If anybody's still watching, for the ones that are still watching this video, I know a few of you are. Thank you so much for watching the video. Thanks so much for continuing to support the channel, even though we hadn't put out a video in forever. We got a lot of new products in the shop. We got a 4070 I'm going to be unboxing in the coming days and doing a full review on that. We got all of our water blocks we're going to be doing unboxing and reviews on, and we just got so much content coming up, guys. So if there's anybody who is not subscribed to the channel, please hit that subscribe button, drop a like, comment, do all that good YouTube stuff. Thank you all so much for watching, and we will see y'all soon.